Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to our review. So, this is going to be a quick overview of what we've learned so far to date and should help us get ready for our test tomorrow. All right, let's begin. So, the first thing we went through is autotrophs. Things you need to know about autotrophs: that they are producers. There is two types of autotrophs. We have our photoautotrophs, which include plants, and they photosynthesize. And then we have our chemoautotrophs, which use chemicals for chemosynthesis. These would include some bacteria and organisms that live next to hydrothermal vents to collect the methane to use chemosynthesis. All right, next we get into heterotrophs. Again, two types of heterotrophs. We have our consumers, which are herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, like the llama, the tiger, and the bear. And then we have our decomposers, which are detritivores, and they feed off the dead, and saprophytes, which absorb the minerals. So that'd be like our earthworms and different fungus. Next, what is a cell? So the cell is the basic building block of all living organisms. It is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. Things to know about the different cellular organisms, like unicellular organisms, which are organisms with only one cell. Unicellular organisms are made up of only one cell that carries out all the functions needed by the organism. They include things like bacteria, some protists, and yeast. Multicellular organisms. So multicellular organisms are organisms that are made up of multiple cells and cell types. This would include animals, plants, and fungus. So our three basic characteristics for classifying living organisms. So things that we look at the cell structure. Are they unicellular organisms or multicellular organisms? How do they get their food, or how does their metabolism work? Are they autotrophs, which are producers, or heterotrophs, which are consumers? How do they reproduce? Do they use sexual reproduction, meaning two different sexes? Or do they use asexual reproduction, which allows them to pretty much make a clone or copy of themselves? Some things that you can look at when we ask these questions is the cellular structure helps determine the complexity and the purpose of the organism. So how they obtain food will actually determine its function or where it is on the food chain. And the way an organism will reproduce or replicate can determine the diversity and the ability for the organism to adapt so that it can go further on. All right, when we start getting into some more of the cell types, we're also going to get into eukaryotic and prokaryotic. So know the difference between a eukaryote and a prokaryote. Eukaryotes have a nucleus. Prokaryotes do not have a true nucleus. Eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles, which is like the little organs and little structures inside of them. Prokaryotes do not have the membrane-bound organelles. Eukaryotes are usually larger and more complex. Prokaryotes are much simpler, and many of them have a flagellum, which is that little tail on the end that helps them move around. Know the three domains. All right, know bacteria, archaea, and eukaryota. Bacteria, they live everywhere, and they're prokaryotes. Archaea, they live in extreme environments, and they're also prokaryotes. And then eukaryota are unicellular or multicellular, and they're eukaryotes. The 6 kingdoms that go with each: domain bacteria has kingdom bacteria. Domain archaea has the kingdom archaea or archaea bacteria. And domain eukaryota has 4 different kingdoms: protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. All right, so then this is where we kind of broke everything down. And if you follow our little chart that we made in class, you can see that we have our domains: archaea, bacteria, eukaryota. You can see that archaea and bacteria are both prokaryotes. You can see that eukaryota are eukaryotes. Then you can see the different kingdoms: domain archaea, kingdom archaea; domain bacteria, kingdom bacteria. Domain eukaryota has protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. And then in the blue, we see our characteristics that we tried to pick out. So between archaea and bacteria, we really looked at where they live, their environment. So archaea has extreme environments, bacteria just live everywhere. And then when we looked at eukaryota, we talked about how protista can be animal or plant-like. Fungi are decomposers, and they can be both unicellular or multicellular. Plantae has cell walls, and they're autotrophs. And animalia are all multicellular, and they're all heterotrophs. So I hope this kind of helps out. I hope this kind of gets you ready for this test tomorrow. And let's go through this, and let's all do well. All right, ask any questions you need, please. All right, thank you. Have a great day.